Welcome to IFE News. Today's discussion is on finding a solution for the ceasefire violation by Pakistan along the line of control. Before we go deep into the topic, let us first understand the concept of ceasefire violation by Pakistan. We hear a lot of news about ceasefire violation. It's been going on for a very long time, but we fail to understand why it takes place in the first place. So, to discuss this topic, we have very special guest on our panel with us, Ashok Kakar sir, retired Indian Army Major General, the man who has served India with glorious history, and uh, and someone who has dealt with Pakistan uh, throughout his life. So, welcome to IFE News, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, let's talk about why this ceasefire violation happens and this concept of why it is taking place.
See, you have a line of control and you have
Okay.
an international border. Now, along the international border, there are very rare attempts when such an action takes place. It's normally happens whenever there is an infiltration attempt or there is a doubt on smugglers or someone trying to come in.
Okay.
But along the line of control, though it has been defined in some form in the Shimla Agreement,
Hmm.
but that is an area which is largely still undefined in the sense that it is not an international border, give or take can take place. That is one.
Okay.
Secondly, as far as the Kashmir issue has been lingering, Pak has been attempting to push in terrorists at regular intervals to keep inciting the population in the valley. Now, you cannot push in uh, terrorists into the region because of strong infiltration grid which exists.
Okay.
One way to try and push in terrorists is by distracting or by diverting the attention of the people who are deployed in the anti infiltration grid.
Okay.
Now, this can be done by ceasefire violations. That is one of the reasons. The other reason is an attempt to try and dominate the LOC by both sides.
Okay.
So, whenever Pakistan, especially in areas where it is on dominating heights, after all, you're looking at a mountainous terrain. So, you've
Mhm.
got dominating heights at times. In some posts, they are dominating, whereas in a majority, we dominate.
Okay.
So, whenever you try and display a sort of bravado or you try and display uh, means of trying to gain ascendancy over the other side, you open fire. Now, the other aspect comes that it is very visible as to whenever there is a change of a unit which is deployed on the LOC.
Okay.
So, normally you would find ceasefire violations increasing whenever a new unit comes in, or possibly increasing whenever there is a action of trying to of change of units. But then the retaliation comes in hard. So that is it is almost become a sort of a norm along the LOC that you will expect ceasefire violations to come in, and you should be prepared for it and you should be ready to retaliate.
Okay. Okay, sir. Next, we have our second panelist, who is Anurag. Anurag, sir. Sir, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah. Okay, sir. We can understand due to some technical difficulty, you can't come online like with video, but we
Yes,
can hear you properly, sir.
thank you.
So I hope you heard our Ashok sir's first point of view. Why this ceasefire violation is taking place uh, along the LOC? So, what is your
Right.
thought on this, sir?
So, I have a different perspective, or, rather, I would want to focus on a different side of things.
Okay.
Uh, we all know, why basically, Pakistan does it. And, as Sir mentioned, the top two reasons. But one thing which we, have seen, especially on social media, that whatever our actions and counter actions are, it still leaves a room for that notion of victory for Pakistani army in the eyes of their citizens. So you see a lot of Pakistanis coming on Twitter and other social media and talking about how great their army is. Not all of them are lying intentionally. Of course, there's certain lie which obviously gets propagated, but
Okay.
many of common citizens in Pakistan believe that their army is great, and that is basically the saving grace which is going to save Pakistan from all troubles, including India. I think it is high time that we basically snatch this notion
Yes,
of
yes, sir.
victory.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, okay,
Yes.
but we are going to discuss this first topic, like
No,
why.
no, one second, one
Yeah.
second, one second. What Anurag said,
Yeah.
let me just put that across in a slightly different way.
Okay.
Anurag, what you brought out is facts. Now, why do you have this sort of a scenario built within Pak? If you take the recent incident where they've put in the sedition charges, you would realize that, oh, if you've looked at Pak history book, there's a very wonderful article of, I think, 15th August 2015 or 16, somewhere around that period, written in the Dawn, which tells you as to what is the teaching in Pak history books. Now, to give you a few examples, on 65 war, the Pak history book states that Pakistan captured a large part of Indian territory. India went down to the UN, and Pakistan, in its magnanimity, handed back the territories. It talks of 71 war. It says that India incited the Hindus in Bangladesh after the 65 war, and through them they incited the Bangladeshis against West Pakistan, or the East Pakistanis against West Pakistan.
Yes.
A class 5 textbook will tell you, it is written in the class 5 history textbook that India is our eternal enemy and we all have to stand together to fight India. Statements by politicians, including Imran Khan now, will state that, in fact, when he made that comment, then Pakistan would have been broken into three parts by India had it not been for the Pak army. So the Pakistan army has projected itself through history, through politicians, and through education
Yes.
that it is invincible. It is the only saving force which has kept Pakistan as one piece. Otherwise, India would have ensured its destruction.
Okay.
Now, this perception, when it is carried down to the local person, anyone who speaks against the army is playing an India card. And for them, and that is one of the major reasons why the Pak army never announces its casualties. It is scared to announce them because that will break the invincibility of the Pak army. It is something similar to what China has been doing as far as the PLA is concerned.
Yes.
Now, this misconception, especially in a country which is run by the army only to safeguard its reputation, is why you find this attitude coming out on Twitter.
Mhm.
And in fact, when you quote, when I've got into discussions with Pak brigadiers and other representatives on various YouTube channels, and when I tell them, I said, have you read your own books? Have you read the sort of fake things that you propagate? Well, this is something which is been inbuilt into their history, into their education, into their culture. And it is this due to which they are even afraid to admit or even honor the people who've been killed in crossfiring or even in incidents of terrorist attacks in Balochistan or in Fatah.
Okay. Okay, sir. Anurag, sir, can you hear
Right.
me?
Sorry. Yeah, I
Sir,
can.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and if I could
Sir,
just basically,
yes, yes,
let
yes.
me just,
Okay.
ask a
Okay.
question to sir.
Okay.
Okay. And sir, don't you think that in this scenario, shouldn't we be redrawing our red lines to make the normal Pakistani citizen, make it very difficult for them to basically carry this notion of greatness of Pakistan army or the victory which they have projected? Shouldn't we be for any ceasefire violations or bad action at LOC be hitting harder, irrespective of the escalation that we perceive? Shouldn't we be basically targeting their brigade headquarters if they are basically using high caliber guns? Let them basically worry about escalation. Let them worry about their reputation and what they are going to do. But for how long should we basically just keep on gradually increasing the caliber, keep on retaliating at the same level?
Who says we retaliate at the same level? That's the first question. Second
Okay.
question, who says we don't hit their brigade headquarters? Who says we've not hit their ammunition dumps? Who says we've not hit their camps way in depth? The caliber earlier used to be 105. Today it's 150 and the 155s or the modified 155s. So you have increased it in every manner. The hitting back is very hard. Like I said, the areas which they choose are where they are dominating. You're hitting in areas in depth across the entire region. Now, that is one of the reasons why they are unwilling to declare casualties or hide their casualties. They don't come out with it. You will find on social media a number of research setups of ours run by our own private citizens, no link with the service headquarters, who regularly scrounge through local park newspapers, which give mention of deaths and casualties of the park army, especially by their families or by some other social organizations. From there, you actually come to realize the number of casualties that park has had. The most recent case was the hitting of a brigade headquarter and a killing of a brigadier in the retaliation, which Park indicated as it was a medical case, whereas on social media it was proved that with someone who'd gone into research into the Park newspapers, that it was in a counter strike by us. So it's not that we're hitting hard. Why do you think the Indian Army doesn't take any foreign representatives to show them the villages or to show them the areas which have been devastated by Park fire? Because nothing much.
Okay.
It does hit the LOC, you have casualties. Why is it Park, which at least 3 to 4 times a year takes foreign diplomats of their friendly nations into areas along the LOC to show them that India has been hitting us and causing a lot of casualties? And they, of course, show civilian casualties and they hide their own. Because what they're doing these days is trying to move their units and establishments into villages so that they're surrounded by civilians. But then collateral damage is acceptable in such scenarios.
Yes. Okay, sir. My next question could be, I want to explore more about this topic. Like, how does a ceasefire violation used to help the infiltrating uh, militants from the Pakistan side? How does it
You
help
see,
Pakistan
you
and
see
the terrorists?
when you open fire, what happens? Automatically, there is a defensive action taken by those along the coast and even those in the anti-infiltration mode.
Okay.
Now, when you are into defensive actions, after all, the LOC is not a straight line. It is not a line on a plain ground like a barbed wire fence that you see along the international border.
Yeah.
You're looking at a mountainous region. There are valleys, there are rivulets, there are gaps.
Okay.
Okay, so when your concentration towards ensuring no loss and you're looking at retaliation and the firing is on both sides, is when there is an attempt at infiltration.
Okay.
So this is part of a system by which they've been functioning,
Hmm.
and you are always countering it because your infiltration posture keeps changing. Your counter infiltration posture keeps changing.
Yes.
So he may get through one level, it's the next level. So that is one of the reasons why they're not able to succeed to push through the number of people that they want,
Okay.
which is why they're now getting more and more desperate.
Okay. Anurag,
Because
yeah.
in another about 2 3 weeks, or maybe by next month, once
Mhm.
the snow really comes into the region,
Yes.
infiltration comes to an almost zero level, because anyone who even manages to get in, his tracks cannot be obliterated.
Okay. Anurag, sir. Hello.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So, why do you think, what do you think really happens to our preparation and the defense mechanism at the line of control when the ceasefire happens? How does it affect our defense?
So I think Sir has already answered the question.
Yes.
Basically, it is for infiltration, and this is how it has been happening. I
Hmm.
think what we also need to see now is the recent actions, also in the context of the situation which has been built up at LAC, and
Okay.
what can be the correlations, what can be the motivations or incentives
Mm.
for Pakistan to do so. Of course, we know that they are feeling a lot of pressure vis-a-vis Kashmir, because the militancy is
Yes.
going downhill. There are not many trained terrorists that are basically available there. So a lot of them have been, terminated or have been arrested. So
Yes.
it's a very difficult, path for Pakistan in those terms. But
Yes.
what what is the role of China? How it is trying to help, and maybe if Kakkar sir can speak about it, that would be like really enlightening for us.
Okay. Okay, sir. Asha, sir, please can you
Mhm.
explain this China's perspective of ceasefire violation by Pakistan? How does China play
See,
into this game?
there is a perception in mind that pressure along the LOC will benefit China. We've got to realize that the force levels currently on the LOC, including the increased counter infiltration grid,
Yes.
and the force level along the LAC are vastly separate. I mean, there is no linkage between the two. One.
Okay.
Number two, for China, a benefit would be increased terrorism in the valley. The ceasefire violations will not give it any major fillip, but definitely there will be a benefit in case there is increased terrorism in the valley.
Mm.
So therefore, there have been reports of China trying to pushing Pak to recreate the Al Badr network to enhance terrorism in the valley, but that has not yet made any major gains.
Okay.
Now, what happens when you cannot infiltrate?
Yeah.
Now you look at other routes to try and push in people. It could be through Nepal, it could be through other sources, it could be possibly on
Yes.
other pretexts coming in, but they have to then come unarmed.
Hmm.
How do you create the caches for them in the valley? That is what you're attempting to do by using drones,
Yeah.
as well as trying to build up the weapon availability with local terrorists, which is not working.
Yes.
Now, we people keep talking of a Pak China nexus.
Yes.
We've got to realize the internal scenario in Pak, as it has been said that in the current scenario, the Pak army runs the country. If it makes any attempt to support China and launches something on Indian soil, does not succeed and gets a bloody nose, the current political environment will ensure that the army loses its hold and control in the country unless it does a repeat of what Musharraf did by
Yes.
losing Kargil and becoming a dictator.
Of course.
So that is, other than that, I mean, he is the only one who actually converted defeat into victory.
Yes.
That famous book that was
Very
written.
true, sir. Yeah.
And now that is something. Other than that, expecting Park to jump in, if it is to jump in, it will only look at jumping in once India is on the mat, which is not going to happen. So Park is going to be very hesitant to try and jump in. Because if it tries and jumps in the LOC, India can always activate the IB sector. So
Okay.
therefore, it's got to be a very, very difficult thought before they seek to gain advantage of the current India-China situation.
Yeah.
But definitely, they will aim to help out China by continuing the sort of pressure that they are maintaining along the LOC with ceasefire violations.
Yeah.
So that is something which we will have to accept, and that is something for which we are already more
Prepared.
than prepared to counter.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir, and we can understand that China is trying to put pressure on us from our from our western border through Pakistan. But my question is, why India is allowing this ceasefire violation to happen? What is the solution for this? Is there any solution at all to stop the ceasefire violation coming in from Pakistan? And also, we don't see these kind of incident taking place with Russia, US, UK, or France or China. Why only India? Well, has India allowed it to happen at this point of
No,
time?
it's not that. If you look at it, it has always been a norm because the borders are active. The borders, I mean, there's a difference between the LOC and the IB. That's why you only find it happening along the LOC.
Yeah.
Now, how do you stop it?
Yes.
You can retaliate. I mean, launching an offensive on ceasefire violations, impacting everything, including loss of lives and economy and everything. But will that stop the ceasefire violations? It's a cheap cost, a cheap method of keeping things active. It's a
Okay.
method of trying to keep the the terrorism running. So you've been able to control it by strong retaliation. And by strong retaliation, when you hit the headquarters and you cause casualties, that area cools down for quite some time. But
Okay.
then what happens is they look for an opportunity, fire a little bit, and then try and run away. So this is something which will be an ongoing affair. It's not something that we need to be so concerned about because this is firing from a distance. Of
Yeah.
course, the major concern is that when you hit hard, invariably, whenever there is a call between the DGMOs, they always refer to the 2003 ceasefire agreement.
Yeah.
But that ceasefire agreement is more on paper. Now, if you look at the other aspect, you would always find that India very rarely accuses Pakistan of ceasefire violations because for
Yes.
us we consider it natural. It
Yes.
is Pakistan which accuses India invariably, and every third day you would find the Indian uh, whoever is
Yes.
now the
Yes. Yeah.
officiating high commissioner there
Yeah.
being called in and being given a demarche on Indian firing, for which it is just dumped into the dustbin because that is the way it is supposed to be.
Okay. Anurag,
But
sir.
that is
Yeah. Yeah.
something
Okay.
which
Go.
they
Go.
keep
Sir.
doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hello, sir. Anurag, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, because we can't see you. We don't know what you're whether you're online or not. Okay, sir. So, what do you think about India's response towards the Pakistan ceasefire violation? Are we going too much soft on Pakistan? We can hear some kind of retaliation, but it's not stopping the problem. So, what is the solution as per your sir? As per your
So
thoughts?
I'm not well placed to basically define this what should be the is that more undeniable than what it is right for there, but
I
an
think so. I think so.
undeniable.
Your signal is weak, sir. We can't hear you
Oh,
properly. Yeah.
okay.
Go,
So
go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir. Yeah.
uh,
Go ahead, sir. Please.
you know,
No. Okay, we'll try to get back, sir. Okay, sir. Ashar, sir.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think so. The signal is very poor at this point of time.
Okay.
So, sir, when we talk about India's retaliation, is it enough what we are doing right now?
I think it is enough.
is it
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, it is enough. In fact, you are hitting back far harder than what they are doing.
Yeah.
You're causing far more damage. You're impacting them much more. And more importantly, you're causing an anger within the local population of POK against their own army. Because
Absolutely.
they are aware that the moment they use their villages to hit and the counter comes in, it is they who are suffering.
Okay.
And their suffering is not because of Indian firing, their suffering is because of initiation of firing by Pak.
Mhm.
And this anger that you keep building up within the POK residents, especially near the border, is going to blow up as we find examples now coming in of large protests on those who've been picked up and gone missing and not being returned.
Okay.
Now, this anger against them will also build up and add to their problems as time passes. And the
Yeah.
more it rises, the better it is for us because that makes their control over their own area much more difficult.
Okay. And we are talking about two-front war with China. To be frank, China is prepared itself to take on world superpowers. If India is still not confident to invade Pakistan, so how can we defend ourselves against two-front conflict with China and Pakistan at the same time?
It is not the question of confidence of invading. The question is when you invade in a hill sector, you may get another two lines, you may get some amount of depth within the sector.
Okay.
But is it worth going in for that? After all, the moment you talk of war, you're talking of an economy going back 10 years. You're
Yeah.
looking at your own population going back in terms of what they have. So
Mhm.
you will only go in for it in case it is pushed onto you. Like with China, unless China pushes, and of course China is very hesitant to contemplate. They've
Okay.
never in their life ever stayed in winters in the way they're being forced to do so now.
Yeah.
They never contemplated they would be stuck in a manner in which they're stuck now.
Yes.
They can't go back, they can't come forward, they can do nothing, they just have to keep sitting.
Just locked. Yeah.
And this is something which they had never envisaged in the month of May.
Yes,
But
sir.
today they're stuck, they don't have an option, they cannot do anything. That is the problem which they are facing. And when we look at two front, the second front is only going to get activated once the first front has made
Opened.
has had some impact.
Yes.
Otherwise, Pak is not going to risk its neck. Even if
Okay.
China gives it an offer, the Pak army can lose its hold with the way the things are moving within the country.
Okay. So till now, I can understand that we are retaliating to the Pakistan ceasefire violation, but again, these violations are keep on continuing from the Pakistan side. So, what could be an ultimate solution for this, sir, to end this topic with you, sir, Asha, sir?
No, the ultimate solution is going to be, the ultimate solution is going to be to hit even harder, which is what we are doing, or to escalate more, and then take a risk in terms of going for war. Now, the
Okay.
question is, if you escalate more, after all, we've also got people who live close to the border. We are not the ones who want to start ceasefire violations.
Okay.
But once it starts, then we want to be the one to finish it. And that's exactly what we're doing. So you are hitting hard and you are achieving what you want to achieve. You're
Okay.
causing damage. Initially, we used to avoid hitting into civilian areas, even if the Pak army was sitting there. Now
Yeah.
there is no holds barred.
Okay.
Now it is open. When it comes from, strike back. And the hitting is getting harder, it's getting deeper, and it's causing greater damage on their side than anything else.
Okay.
So it will cause a realization, it will bring about a change, but you have to be prepared that it's not going to be an overnight change.
Okay, sir. So we can we take it as the solution to this problem of ceasefire violation is ultimately serious consequences of war.
Ultimately, if you're looking at shutting it down permanently, then as long as Pakistan is there, it will remain in some form.
Okay.
Unless, they have to change their Kashmir policy, they've got to change a lot, which is why they've got to come down to talk. So that is not going to happen in any near time frame. It's a
So
very low
yeah.
cost option for them, and it is an equally low cost option for us to hit back.
Yes.
There are incidents where we do have casualties. There is no doubt that it happens. After all, there are shells flying in the air.
Okay.
And a shell which is up in the air, the sort of casualty that it carries with the casualties can cause with the TNT content is always there. Earlier, the firing used to be in terms of small arms, which is not much, which is what the BSF does in the plane sector, where
Okay.
casualties are less because you're generally firing small arms and into bunkers which are well defended. But here you're firing artillery. So with artillery, there will be casualties. Our casualties, each and every one is declared. We're a democracy.
Yes.
In Pakistan, the army hides its casualties. It even refuses to release it to the parliament because it claims
Yes.
officially there is a statement by the Pak DG ISPR that we cannot release our casualties. It will be lowering of morale of our own people if we actually release our figures of casualties.
Yeah.
So that is their status today.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I'm really extremely sorry for making you wait for some time because we had some
Okay.
technical issue with him and another panelist also can't join us.
Okay.
So I'm
Sure.
really honored to listen to you, sir, once again for our IFE News team. And thank you once again. And hope so India will retaliate heavily. Even so, if it's war, let's go for it. Jai Hind, sir.
Jai Hind. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.